So let's begin. Road to an inspiring culture. An inspiring culture is based on the clarity and buy-in of your common good. Your common good consists of three main elements: your mission and vision, your goals and values, and your standards and expectations. When you want to put together an inspiring culture, you've got to have both clarity about the common good and buy-in. When you put this together in a quad chart, you get four interesting types of culture. If you are in a high clarity but low levels of buy-in culture, then you have a compliance situation. And in a compliance situation, the leaders are primarily focused down and in. They are making sure that the employees are doing their jobs and spending the vast majority of their energies in supervising. And what they're sacrificing in a compliance culture is they're not looking up and out. So they're not building relationships. They're not focused on growth. Compliance organizations are like military basic training companies. All of the drill sergeants are focused down and in, making sure that the new privates are doing their jobs. There's a lot of clarity about the common good, but there's low levels of buy-in, and that's what basic training is all about. You see compliance cultures in places like the Department of Motor Vehicles, right? Nobody is focused on the growth of the DMV, at least not the employees there. And the supervisors are there making sure that the employees are doing their jobs. In the lower left corner, when you have low levels of clarity and low levels of buy-in, this is a chaotic culture. And in a chaotic culture, it's the office alphas who are really determining who does what to whom and how things really go in the organization. So you can have all sorts of nice things printed on the walls, but what happens on the calls and what happens in the halls are far more important than anything you write on the walls. You can look at organizations like Uber in the early days with their toxic culture as an example of a chaotic culture. Many departments in the U.S. government have a chaotic culture, and I think a lot of you have probably seen the bureaucratic, slow rolling and turf battles and all of these other passive aggressive behaviors that happen in governments and big organizations when people simply don't want to change how they're doing business. On the lower right, where you have high levels of buy-in but low levels of clarity, this is a contingent culture. And in a contingent culture, you have a set of founders and partners who all have this symbiotic relationship. They probably worked together for a really long time. They know how one another thinks. And because of that, they don't have to write down those elements of their common good because they're already bought in. They have this implicit understanding that they don't make explicit. And this works perfectly fine for a lot of small businesses until they either lose some of those founding members and partners or they try to scale. And when that happens, when the contingent culture gets watered down, that implicit understanding of the common good gets watered down, then you begin to backslide towards chaotic. So a lot of organizations that seek to grow through acquisition, SPACs, this is the big problem with so many SPACs, where everything gets watered down and suddenly you are in a chaotic situation. Finally, where we want to be, of course, is in the upper right. And this is an inspiring culture. An inspiring culture, we've got high degrees of clarity on the common good and lots of buy-in. What happens is the employees, the people on your team are doing the right things the right ways without you having to watch. And the leaders can focus up and out. They can focus on strategy, they can focus on growth, they can focus on the things that are going to create sustainable success within the organization and not simply rely on the ways that we've always done business. Complacency is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting the same results. Because when your adversaries are innovating or situations are evolving, then you are simply falling further and further behind. And this is why complacency often kills. When you have an inspiring culture where leaders are able to look over the horizon, able to look beyond the 5-meter target, and focus on strategy and growth, is where you get sustainable success.